Morris Jones with breaking news coverage here on News Channel 8. We're live in Baltimore, where the curfew is now in effect at 30 minutes past the hours. We bring you these pictures. At about 10 minutes after 10, if you watched our earlier newscast, there was a strong police presence, but also a strong presence of protesters eyeballing each other. There was no violence per se. Now the curfew is well into its half hour, and I think authorities are said, you know, mark our words, we're going to enforce this curfew. So moments ago, we saw a lot of volleys of tear gas being thrown. We saw crowds dispersing. The shining light you see in the middle of your screen is from the helicopter overhead. We've not seen any particular efforts of fires or looting or violence from this perspective, just a lot of crowds who have been gathered. We've not seen any rock or brick throwing. We've seen a strong police presence with the National Guard backing up local police. Governor Larry Hogan said that they would not tolerate any more violence that we witnessed last night with so many fires and other things going on. There were 45 fires reported last night, 144 vehicle fires, 200 arrests. So for the critics that said that authorities waited too long to get something in place, tonight's the night that they can show that they will not let this happen again in Baltimore. So these are live pictures just over a half hour after the curfew took effect in Baltimore. We understand that there's also some protests going on in Chicago. We're not sure the extent of those. Among the other issues besides the death and the protest and remembrance of Freddie Gray is that there was a flash mob at the local mall yesterday, which authorities said had nothing to do with any protesting. These were just kids that were looking to do basically a flash mob that we've seen in cities like Baltimore and Washington. That was organized on social media. So there are various factions, some of them peaceful protesters, others violent protesters, others, as President Obama referenced today, are just criminals who are out to loot and create mayhem in the process. We also know the power of social media. There have been reports that some of the same people who've instigated some of the riots in Ferguson, Missouri, were also involved in social media to get the Baltimore elements to act up. But so far, we're seeing some tear gas being sprayed there in the lower middle part of your crowd. Tom Rousey's on the ground in Baltimore. He brought us a report earlier. Tom, what do you have right now? What are you seeing from your vantage point?
Well, Morris, this is what we've been seeing in the last few minutes here. I'm going to get out of the way so we can show you what's going on. We have seen the police. They have advanced some, and they've actually had firecrackers thrown at them, bottles thrown at them, plastic, you name it. And then they fired back with some tear gas, and also they've been firing some rubber bullets as well at some of the protesters here. So that's what we've seen just in the last few minutes. Things are definitely starting to get very, very dicey here. It started where they were.
All right, we're having trouble with Tom's signal. Let me know when we get him back, because Tom, are you still there? Go ahead.
So they're having trouble with the signal. Can you hear me, Morris?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me ask you this.
Well, and again, what I've been seeing here is I've been seeing them firing rubber bullets. They've also fired some tear gas, which we inhaled part of, so I can definitely verify that it was tear gas that they shot there. So that's what happened. The curfew took effect at 10 o'clock. A lot of folks went home, but then there were others who didn't. The police weren't necessarily trying to enforce the curfew, but then a number of things were thrown at them there. And so it was kind of at that point that things started getting a little dicey around here. And so that is the scene out here right now in West Baltimore. But at least at the moment, things are calming down here, although I just heard, I don't know where that came from exactly, but it sounded like rubber bullets. That's what a gentleman next to me here is saying. So, but again, for the most part, they've cleared the street, but you see the police line there. It has moved forward from where it was, and I'm still hearing rubber bullets, and that was tear gas right there. I just inhaled. That's why I coughed right there. It's not too bad. But that's the situation right now in West Baltimore. So again, after the curfew went into effect, things got dicey. Here comes another firecracker over here. I guess that's actually tear gas. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that came from the police. I didn't see it initially, but it came this direction. You can see it right over there in the street. See all that gas coming out from it? Now it's getting thrown back. Hit a tree. All right. I guess it's tear gas. I don't really know. Well, I guess we'll find out in a second here. But there it is. Lit something on fire. Now police are firing. Oh.
Tom, it's Morris. Are you able to hear me?
So we're going to try to get away from that. I can hear you, Morris. I can.
I also heard some reports that members of the media were being urged to also follow
Hey, Ron, we better. All right, this is all tear gas, so we're going to have to back up a little.
Okay.
Woo.
Tom, are members of the media
gosh.
being told to go to leave?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there,
Are
Morris.
reporters being told to leave too? I mean,
What
the
did you
curfew applies to everybody. I heard that the media was also told to evacuate. Is that the case?
We had not heard that initially, but they have said that from the helicopter. They have said that. Most of the media did not leave, I can say, and a lot of the crowd didn't either. But again, as you see live on TV here, they are firing tear gas towards the folks who are here, and so that's why we had to back up there. Definitely stings you in the eye, I can tell you that.
The
so
irony
trying to disperse the crowd, but
it's our job to bring the news, but we also have people who are acting out because the cameras are there. So one thing leads to another. That's the dilemma in covering civil unrest and protests like this. We were hoping it wouldn't reach any more.
It is a tough situation, definitely, Morris. It's a tough situation because you don't know what to do. On the one hand, we have to inform the public. On the other hand, obviously, you don't want to make the situation worse. So we're trying not to do that for sure.
Tom, is this an area just a few square
and,
blocks around you, or is there more of an area? I mean, I know you're in one particular location, but what's your sense of the several blocks around you? Is this the epicenter?
This is definitely the epicenter at the moment, and this was also the epicenter of a lot of what happened yesterday, I can tell you, because the CVS that burned is just to the right of all the officers you're seeing who are starting to advance there. It's just literally just a building or two to the right on Pennsylvania Avenue there, and we're actually on North Avenue at the moment. And yesterday, a lot of the fires, car fires, business fires, as well as a lot of the looting happened around here. It wasn't just here, it was definitely other parts of the city too, but the worst of it was in this area right here. We're going to keep backing up here because everybody seems to be clearing the area and the police are still advancing here.
Tom, let me ask you this. So
that's the scene right now. We got helicopters running overhead.
Were there also civic leaders out tonight? We saw them this afternoon trying to place themselves between the police and the protesters. Have there been more civic leaders out tonight, or I assume they're probably honoring the curfew?
There have been. Actually, there were a number of folks that either got bullhorns or just yelled to the crowd, begging them to disperse around the time of the curfew. We saw that happen. So a lot of folks saying, look, we don't want violence. We want things to go peacefully. Please go home. And a lot of people did listen. A lot of people made sure to get home before the curfew. But there were a number of folks who didn't, and honestly, it seemed like there were some folks just waiting for their opportunity to begin throwing things at police. We've seen a lot of guys covering their face with bandanas or other things who clearly didn't want their identities shown. And to be honest, a lot of the issues have arisen from some of those guys. Whereas, again, you had a crowd that really did not want violence and begged people to go home. But at least some folks, the majority listened, but some folks did not.
We should understand this is a planned escalated show of force. This is the tear gas is the first of many things that they plan on doing. We hope it doesn't get any worse than this. Have you witnessed any arrests since you've been there tonight, Tom?
Personally, I have not. We've seen some earlier in the day. Our crews have. But at least at this scene, I have not seen any arrests. Obviously, some folks have done things you could get arrested for, throwing things at police, throwing firecrackers at police. But no, I have not seen anyone arrested. Basically, they have just stayed in that line that you see right there. They're not moving from that line. And so that seems to be their strategy, stick together, and when they need to, they all advance en masse, as you saw them do a few moments ago. So that seems to be the strategy at this point, is not to try to make an individual arrest, at least where we are.
Tom, from the video that I'm seeing, we're viewing a lot of local police. Where's the National Guard?
Well, right now, at least some of them are actually behind the police line. There's a tank that's National Guard that's behind there. I doubt you can see it from this distance, but they are there. But there's also National Guard spread throughout the city. For instance, earlier, the big mall that had some looting yesterday that's not far from here. We saw a lot of National Guard there, and here comes a vehicle. I don't know if this is National Guard or not, but it certainly looks like it could be. But, I mean, they're around. Believe me, actually, there's more National Guard, twice as many, as there are police officers in town tonight. It's 2,000 to 1,000. So, believe me, they are out. And they can be seen in force in a lot of areas of the city. Just in this particular area, with that line, you're not seeing a lot of them right now.
I'm curious to see how social media is reacting or instigating some of this, because you talked about the mall that was broken into and basically decimated yesterday. That was basically a flash mob from kids who were told about the purge, where what happens when there's a breakdown in society with no law enforcement. They were basically acting that out. There's so many different elements that we're seeing play out in front of the camera here.
Definitely. And I haven't had a chance to monitor too much of what's going on with that tonight since we've been out here. But I can tell you it's played a big role, and a lot of the teenagers are going on Twitter and some of the other social media sites to kind of arrange what they're doing. And of course, they didn't have school today, so there were a lot of folks on the streets, teenagers out on the streets all day long, and communicating with each other that way as well.
Tom Rousey with live coverage for us, live from Baltimore. Tom, stay safe. Keep us posted on everything that's going on out there. To recap, the curfew took place 40 minutes ago. Police and National Guard are now using tear gas to get the crowds to disperse. Last night we had 45 fires, 144 vehicle fires, and 200 arrests. We're hoping for a lot more peace and calm tonight. We'll have continuing coverage at 11 o'clock on ABC 7. Keep it there to watch for the live reports from Baltimore. In the meantime, I'm Morris Jones, News Channel 8.